Part of why silence feels so dangerous comes down to something researchers at Yale identified and named the liking gap. After a conversation ends, people consistently underestimate how much the other person actually enjoyed talking to them. Across strangers meeting in a lab, new college roommates, and people at social workshops, the pattern held. Participants walked away assuming they'd come across as awkward or boring, while the person they'd been talking to reported enjoying it significantly more than that. The gap comes from being stuck inside your own head, replaying what you said, while the other person is mostly just experiencing the conversation, not grading it. Which means the anxious rush to fill every pause is being driven by a distorted read of how the conversation is actually landing. A few seconds of quiet, a shared look around the room, a comment about something happening nearby, none of that is the disaster it feels like in the moment. Letting a pause sit, without scrambling to rescue it, usually reads as ease rather than failure. It just doesn't feel that way from inside your own head. Not every conversation is supposed to turn into something. Some interactions just don't have the energy for it, and trying to force one anyway is exactly what makes it collapse. The moment you start reaching for material just to keep something alive that's already run its course, that effort becomes obvious, and it's usually what finally kills the conversation for good, more than the actual lull would have. Reading that moment accurately, knowing when a conversation has naturally run its course, and exiting cleanly instead of dragging it out, is its own skill. Sometimes that means wrapping up warmly and moving on. Sometimes it means saying you've got to go, but you'd genuinely like to continue this another time, and actually meaning it. Either way, ending a conversation well leaves a better impression than stretching a dead one past its natural length ever will. Go back to that person standing next to you at the event, the one you were trading polite facts with. Nothing about that exchange required better trivia or a smarter question bank. It needed less managing and more actual presence. One honest reaction instead of one more question. One callback instead of one more fresh topic. One comfortable pause instead of a scramble to fill it. Try just one thing the next time you're stuck in a conversation that feels like filling out a form together. React to what they just said instead of asking something new, and let one silence sit without rushing in to rescue it. That's honestly the whole shift. Everything else in this video is really just a variation on paying closer attention to the person actually standing in front of you than to the pressure running quietly in your own head. There's real research behind why this matters. A set of studies out of Harvard, including work run inside actual speed dating sessions, found that the people who were consistently rated as more likable by strangers weren't the ones with the best stories. They were the ones who asked more follow-up questions. Questions that built on what the other person had just said, instead of jumping to a new topic. Follow-up questions do something a fresh new question can't. They signal you were actually listening, not just waiting for your turn to ask something else. So instead of stacking questions, use one of two moves. Go deeper. Instead of what do you do, try something that reacts to what they just told you. Wait, what made you go into that? You don't seem like the typical person who ends up there. That kind of question invites a story instead of a fact. Or go different. Instead of another question, offer a reaction, a light opinion, a guess, an assumption they can push back on. You have the energy of someone who was the oldest sibling. They might laugh, correct you, or lean into it. But either way, you've given the conversation somewhere new to go, instead of another box to check. Conversations that actually go somewhere are built on reactions as much as questions, because reactions create a small spike of emotion, and emotion is what makes people enjoy being around you, long after they've forgotten the specific words. One habit separates conversations that build into something from conversations that stay flat no matter how long they run. Most people jump from topic to topic, a new question resets the whole interaction, and nothing ever gets to build on what came before. That's exactly why it still feels like small talk 20 minutes in. The fix is to treat small moments as material you can return to later. Someone mentions they guessed your age wrong. 10 minutes later, when the conversation lulls, you bring it back. You're still in shock about the age thing, I can tell. That's a callback, and it does something a brand new topic can't. It signals shared history, even if the whole shared history is 11 minutes old. It's a tiny inside joke that exists only between the two of you, and every time you reference it, you're reinforcing that this specific exchange couldn't be happening with anyone else in the room. That's actually the basic mechanism of how any relationship deepens. Accumulated shared moments you both keep referring back to, piling up faster than either of you notices. A lot of people treat any pause in conversation as an emergency. The second it goes quiet, they rush to fill it with something, anything, and that scramble is usually more awkward than the silence would have been. There's some truth buried in that objection, and pretending otherwise would be dishonest. Attractiveness does create a real head start. Decades of research on what's called the halo effect confirm that people who are seen as good-looking get an automatic bump in first impressions. They're assumed to be more competent, more trustworthy, more interesting, before they've said a word that proves any of it. That bump is measurable, and it's real. But here's the part that objection misses. It's a smaller piece of the story than most people assume. One of the earliest researchers to seriously study first impressions, Gordon Allport, found that the single strongest predictor of how someone came across was their expressive behavior, how animated, warm, and engaged they were in the moment, ahead of anything about their face. A later study tracking strangers from their very first 5-minute conversation all the way through 9 weeks of getting to know each other found something similar. Attractiveness mattered most at the very first glance, before anyone had spoken. The moment an actual conversation started, how expressive and engaged someone was began pulling just as much weight, and it kept mattering long after the first impression had faded. So the honest answer sits in between those two extremes. Looks buy you the first 3 seconds, and behavior is what determines every second after that. The skill in this video is the actual mechanism doing most of the work, for everyone, past the opening glance, genetic lottery or not. Most people walk into a new conversation running a background calculation. What do I need to get out of this? A phone number, a good impression, a job lead, or at minimum, an exit that doesn't feel awkward. The moment that calculation starts running, the conversation is already dead, because now you're not actually present with the other person. You're managing an outcome. Every sentence gets filtered through, will this get me the result I want? And that filtering is subtle enough that you might not notice you're doing it, but the other person can feel it. It reads as forced, even when the words are perfectly fine. Consider 2 people meeting at a work conference. One of them is quietly running the numbers. How do I turn this into a connection worth following up on? How do I make sure this goes well? The other one is just curious whether this stranger has anything interesting to say. Same room, same small talk topics available, wildly different feel, and the second person is the one people want to keep talking to, mostly because there's no invisible agenda humming underneath the conversation, and people can sense that difference even when they can't name it. The fix isn't complicated, but it does require a mindset flip that feels counterintuitive at first. Stop asking, what do I need to say for this person to like me, and start asking, do I actually find this person interesting? That shift removes the performance. You stop filtering yourself into a sanitized, careful version of you because you're not auditioning anymore. You're just paying attention. Once the transactional pressure is gone, most people run into the second wall. They still don't know what to do with a conversation once it's rolling, so they default to asking more questions back to back. It feels productive. It's actually the fastest way to kill momentum, because stacked questions start to feel like an interview, and nobody enjoys being interviewed. You're standing next to someone at an event. Neither of you knows anyone else nearby, so you start talking. What do you do? Oh, nice. How long have you been doing that? Cool. And are you from around here? Both of you are answering fine. Both of you are also quietly hoping someone else walks over so this can end. Nothing went wrong technically. Every question was reasonable, and yet the whole exchange felt like filling out a form together. That's the part worth stopping on, because most people assume the fix is better questions. It isn't. The questions were never the problem. Here's the mistake that kills almost every forgettable conversation before it starts: treating it like an information exchange. Name, job, hometown, how long you've lived here. On paper, that's a completely normal set of questions. In practice, it's exactly why the conversation feels like work, because you and the other person are trading facts instead of trading energy. Think about the best conversation you've had in the last year. There's a decent chance you can't actually remember most of what was said. What you remember is how it felt: easy, funny, a little electric, like time got weird. Now think about a conversation where you said all the right things, asked all the reasonable follow-ups, kept it polite and on topic, and it still felt dead the whole time. Same structure, opposite result. The only variable that changed between those two memories isn't the topic. It's the energy underneath the words. That's the actual thing you're managing in any conversation with someone new. Not what to say next, but what the exchange feels like while it's happening. People forget 80% of the small talk from any given interaction within a day. What sticks is the vibe you left them with. Here's where it's worth being honest about something, because there's a real objection people raise about advice like this. Doesn't none of it matter if you're not already good looking, or already have status walking in the door?